I am TJ Davis, and I will be interviewing Professor Scott Shattuck for Romeo and Juliet. So, in your opinion, what is the concept of Romeo and Juliet?
Well, when I direct Shakespeare, I tend to like to set the story in a world that has never existed until we invent it. And that's what we're doing with Romeo and Juliet. So the setting will be simultaneously historical in feeling, but also futuristic in some ways in feeling. So we've been inspired by some post-apocalyptic literature and films, and by the steampunk design aesthetic. Not going to be a steampunk production, but some of that same feeling of being old and futuristic at the same time.
So that way it'll give it a new vibe, bring out what you remember from previous performances, but it's a twist, right?
I hope it'll be both evocative of how old and richly experienced the story is, but also get away from any cliched ideas about how the story should be told, or where the story is set, or who these people are. Certainly I think the story is as important to and as interesting to and moving for contemporary audiences as for any in history. So I wanted it not to seem like an antique in any way.
Okay. What was your motivation for this production?
We do Shakespeare traditionally every 2 years, and it was time. Sometimes we'll do a different kind of classic play, but it's usually Shakespeare at around this time. And so I was thinking about what play to do, and it had been 19 years since SFA had produced Romeo and Juliet, of course one of the most popular and beloved of Shakespeare's plays. I knew it would be of interest to audiences, particularly young audiences, also teachers that may be introducing Shakespeare to young people in the schools. And it would be a great opportunity for our own students to learn from doing it. And it just seems to be in the zeitgeist, actually. I didn't realize this at the time that I chose it, but there's a production of Romeo and Juliet opening tonight on Broadway as we record this.
Okay.
There's a new film version of Romeo and Juliet coming out very soon, I'm not sure when. So apparently I just was inspired by the same thing that inspired others around the same time to want to revisit this story.
Like we're moving into an era of Romeo and Juliet all over again.
It appears we are.
So you said it's very popular, so would you consider it to be the greatest love story of all?
You know, I think it may be. It's very hard to think of another love story that's been as frequently told as this one. It's practically synonymous with the idea of a love story. Now, of course, there are some interesting aspects to that reputation for the play, because the characters meet and fall in love very quickly. They get married immediately. They don't spend very much time together at all.
Yeah.
And of course, it's not a happy love story in its ending. It's a tragedy. And so it's a little interesting to explore the fact that people are so drawn to it as a love story when it's a pretty uncharacteristic love affair that these two young people have.
So in play analysis, we've been analyzing Romeo and Juliet and everything, and overall we think that the theme is a little naive. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Well, do you mean that the characters are naive, and then therefore the theme is beware of being naive?
Yeah, because they're very naive and then they get mature towards the end, which is unfortunate.
I really feel for the title characters in the play, and Yeah, I think they may be naive, but they're teenagers, and young people are meant to be naive. You know, a jaded teenager is not a person we want to meet, really. So I don't mind their naivete. I worry about them, though, because they don't get much quality guidance from the adults. Certainly not from their parents.
Yeah.
In the play. And they're caught up in this feud, which I think is a superficial rivalry between the families that's gotten out of hand. Probably there's no good reason for them to be in the conflict that they're in, just some sort of social embarrassment or slight or feeling of being offended that's just carried on for far too long and has given rise to violence, which there's really no need for. And so I don't want to blame the title characters thematically for what goes wrong. I really think the world around them, and in particular their parents and the other adults, have more responsibility for the violence in the play, and for in some ways for how rushed their love affair is. I mean, it's really, if Friar Lawrence were a more responsible clergyman, he might have said, maybe you guys should get together. Maybe you should get to know one another a little bit longer before I perform this wedding ceremony.
Yeah, he did kind of like instigate it, egg it on. So, who would be your favorite character?
Oh, as I'm directing the play, that's like asking me which is the favorite of my children, which I just couldn't possibly do, and I really wouldn't want to choose between Romeo and Juliet.
Okay, well, let me rephrase the question. If you had to perform as an actor in the play, which one would you most likely want to perform as?
I would like to be Friar Lawrence, but I'd probably be cast as Capulet. And I am drawn to Friar Lawrence, and I think he has a good heart. I do think he makes mistakes, certainly in the course of the story, but I think he's someone whose caring for the title characters is real, and he's relatively intelligent among the adults that the kids deal with. So just if I were to imagine myself in a production of the play, maybe Friar Lawrence.
Okay. So my last question is, what do you want the audience to walk away with after seeing your take on Romeo and Juliet?
I think most of all, I'd like for them to leave feeling that Shakespeare is exciting as drama, that just like an audience member's favorite dramatic stories from the movies or television or the theater, this is a vital story. It's an edge of your seat, compelling story of suspense. It's funnier than they knew it was going to be, and it's perhaps more moving than they thought a 400-year-old play could be. I had to check my math for a moment, but yeah, it's just a little over 400 years old. So yeah, hopefully some new excitement about Shakespeare and maybe passion for it would be ideal. And I hope that people take their own thematic notions from it, and I'll be interested to hear what people say they feel is the lesson that the play teaches, because I don't think it's a simple one. I don't have an easy moral for this story.
Well, thank you for taking the time out of your day to have this interview with me. That is Scott Shattuck, and please come see Romeo and Juliet November 19th to November 23rd. Thank you.
Thanks, TJ.